This podcast is based on real events and personal experiences. Some details may be altered to protect privacy. The opinions and deductions shared are mine alone. While based on real events, the names and certain details have been changed to maintain privacy and respect for all involved. I've always been someone who finds joy in the little things. And I promised myself not to lose that sense of wonder, especially after studying Giovanni Pascoli's idea of the inner child. So here I am, in Italy at 8 p.m. on October 16, 2024, with the rain pouring down. The air feels just like something out of a moody, misty small town in the Pacific Northwest. All I want to do is play my favorite simulation game, but my mind keeps drifting to Costa de Caparica, my second favorite spot in Lisbon, with its bright sun and fresh winds. It's one of those moments when you realize how much you miss the places that made you feel alive. Hi, I'm your host Jessica, and this is CHARADE. The day we planned to go to the beach, I was beyond excited. When I spotted him through the crowd, his striped shirt reminded me of something a reggaeton artist may wear. It made me smile to see him carrying a simple paper bag with a towel and a change of clothes. A funny contrast to how women, me included, carry bags big enough to hold a portal to another dimension. We walked to the bus stop trying to make conversation. After a bit of waiting, the air-conditioned bus finally arrived, bringing some relief from the heat. He sat across from me and took my hands without hesitation. Quick note, holding hands has always been one of my favorite ways to connect. It made me feel close to him, like our fingers were having a silent conversation. Everything felt strangely natural. A simple way of saying, "I'm here, can you feel me?" As the bus drove us out of town, I suggested we listen to music together. He agreed. So, I played a song by a reggaeton artist, avoiding my favorite track to keep it neutral. Mr. Mirage then asked if I liked reggaeton, and I responded with excitement. What a silly question though. Who listens to music they don't enjoy? I saw him nod, like he was making a mental note, his eyes wandering out of the window to admire the view. Honestly, I felt a bit like someone cutting a psychological puzzle with the almost primal urge to uncover hidden thoughts and secrets. Small spoiler, that feeling lingered in the background like soft music for the rest of our relationship. The first part of the trip ended near Cristo Rei. While we waited for the next bus, he pulled me onto his lap and we exchanged light kisses. But our fingers did most of the talking, brushing against each other even as my gaze drifted toward the traffic. Yet, frustration built when the bus to Caparica arrived with a full sign, and because I'd been there before, we moved to another stop. It was nearly 2 in the afternoon, and the sun beat relentlessly, but we still enjoyed the moment. At one point, he stood behind me, looking at our reflection and said, "Let's check the height." I don't know why, but Mr. Mirage thought I was as short as a gardenia, but actually, I reached his chin. And sometimes he joined our hands, laughing at the size difference, even though our fingers lined up a few centimeters apart. But I found it endearing how he lingered on those details. In those moments, I felt like one of the most adorable creatures he'd ever seen. The second bus to Caparica was packed, so we stood. Me leaning my head against his chest, his arm around my back, still sharing music through my headphones. And when the bus turned, he extended his arm to steady me. And the thoughtfulness of that simple gesture touched me. It was another check mark on my mental list about him. Finally, we arrived in Caparica. And in the end, we headed to the beach. And when I caught sight of the ocean, I was surprised. The colors were always stunning, but this was the first time I'd seen it so calm. The breeze made the heat bearable. We settled near the shoreline, so I could swim without losing sight of our belongings. Mr. Mirage was the first to remove his shirt, revealing his toned olive skin. I thought it was ironic that he wore the same swimsuit featured in some of his Instagram posts, but I realized that the real version was far better than the pixelated one. I slipped off my shorts, leaving my loose shirt to cover me. I probably should have worried about whether he liked my half naked body or if he'd focus on my cellulite, but after months of working out and losing weight, I felt comfortable in my own skin. I didn't feel real discomfort, even though I was about to give a guy I barely knew a preview of what I looked like in my underwear. So I pushed those thoughts aside, gripped the edges of my shirt, and pulled it off. He was just one of many who could see me on that beach. I was still feeling odd, knowing I had to take advantage of it before the Atlantic waters cooled me down. Soon, hand in hand, the waves crashed over us. Mr. Mirage seemed determined to pass the spot where the waves broke, but knowing he nearly drowned several times and that the beach had riptides, I refused to risk my life. He didn't know how to swim. I couldn't rely on him. So I made clear right away that I wasn't venturing out there. The best part for me was playing with the waves and the foam, no worrying about being judged. And just like the first time at Plaza do Comercio, I was surprised by his reaction to the surroundings. Mr. Mirage got goosebumps. He was shivering. I couldn't help but laugh at the irony. Shouldn't he be used to this? I should be the one feeling cold coming from the Mediterranean, right? As much as he wanted to act macho and stay in the water, I felt pity and encouraged him to step out. We dried off in the sun, exchanging kisses. His lips tasted like salt. I was happy to be in Caparica and that he was with me. Lying on the towels, we drifted off in a cuddle nap. I had a sleep debt from the work week and the night spent partying with friends. Looking back, I laugh at how easily sleep disarmed me in the presence of a guy I barely knew. When I woke up, the kisses turned languid, and I felt my body respond in ways I hadn't expected. A subtle tension filled the air, and from his gaze I knew I wasn't the only one feeling it. Then, after a sigh, he murmured, "I can do anything." And I was left frustrated. I don't know why I didn't think to jump back into the water to break the tension. "You are like a drug," he said, his eyes heavy with that tipsy look. His choice of word caught me off guard. Part of me felt flattered by the way I seemed to influence him, but another couldn't help but think of a line from a famous vampire novel. I laughed softly, then turned to the horizon, aware that his eyes were still on me. Just then, my phone rang.
Hello.
A friend wanted to organize the evening, and knowing I was with him, she asked if he'd join. I felt torn. On one hand, I knew it wasn't smart to spend too much time together. On the other, I kind of wanted to show him off to the girls. In the meantime, he mentioned a friend that tried calling him, someone he couldn't reach. For a moment, I wondered who she was, to call him twice on a Sunday. But then I shrugged it off. What did it matter? Why let a stranger affect my self-esteem? My life in Lisbon wasn't just about a boy and his friends. So I threw out the invitation for the evening. For a moment, he hesitated. Say we wouldn't be alone and my friends might judge him. I found his concern kind of ridiculous and said so with a firm, "That's stupid." But I also made it clear he was free to decide. I already had my evening planned. In the end, he agreed.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if he was trying to prove something to himself, to me, or to his friends. But that meant we had to go back to my place so I could wash and change. It'd be in my apartment, in my room. Part of me felt nervous, but another part liked the idea of him using my shower and towel, a different pair. At the same time, I wasn't concerned about what others might think of him being there. Instead, I found myself curious about how they'd perceive our dynamic. How did we look from the outside? These thoughts crowded my mind on the trip home, even as we shared headphones again. I doubted he had any complaints about my music. I was listening to Portuguese and Spanish songs, and if he didn't like it, he could have just taken the headphones out. I didn't care. Hey there, listener! While you are deep in this story, here is a thought. Ever wondered if your adventures could inspire someone else? I want to hear from you. Share your impressions about this episode, Mr. Mirage, or your own unforgettable experiences. Email me at thesharadepodcast@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram at jessie.sharad. Here's the twist. In an upcoming episode, I'll feature your stories, anonymously or not, so your voice can join the journey. Don't miss the chance to be a part of Charade. Let's make it personal. Now, back to our story. Near my house, I texted my friend to let her know we'd be there soon. Now, I felt a bit anxious. Two parts of my life were about to collide. We went up to the apartment, where I quickly introduced him to one of my roommates before heading off to shower. When I finished, he followed suit. Before dinner, we were in my room. He sat at my desk while I tended to the drying rack. The door was ajar, and a faint sound from the hallway made me turn. Moments later, he murmured something. "What?" I asked, glancing back. "You're curious," he observed. I paused, a little caught off guard, but not surprised. "I am." As I checked whether our shirt was dry, I could not but reflect on how seen I felt in that moment. Mr. Mirage was paying attention, and despite everything, his comment didn't sound like a critic. It felt like he found me intriguing too. We sat down for dinner, enjoying chicken wings with two friends who would join us for the night out. Although he didn't actively participate in the conversation due to, well, language barriers, I noticed him smiling behind the chicken wing as he watched me. Speaking of which, I sent him a flying kiss, which he immediately returned. Shortly after, Mr. Mirage reached for my hand under the table. And moments later, we found ourselves in my room, and everything outside seemed to blur into the background. The door clicked shut behind us, and suddenly the space between us felt charged with silent anticipation. There was no rush, no pressure, just the raw simplicity of two people drawn together by something that needed no words. I had no idea how it would go, yet I felt ready to let go. Seeing him fully naked evoked no negative emotions, no awkwardness, just the moment unfolding as it was meant to. When he hovered over me, he remarked, "We just started and you are already so wet." I wanted to remind him that that was just how women work, but it didn't seem the right time. In that quiet space, everything felt simple, but also more complicated than I was prepared for. I thought to myself, do I go for it or do I reject him? Go for it. It wasn't about urgency, it was about curiosity. The kind you feel when you're on the edge of something new, where every move is like an exploration. His touch felt unfamiliar, like a dance of two people learning each other's rhythm. I didn't need to understand it. I just followed. There was no expectation, just an instinct to discover what felt right. Whatever the outcome, I felt at peace. Afterward, a quiet reflection lingered. I don't feel any emotional connection. I had expected something, maybe a spark, a flutter of excitement. Instead, there was a stillness and absence. Not disappointing, just different. Was I normal? No butterflies, no rush of feelings, no urge to label or define what had just happened. It was like I was watching it all from a distance, feeling it, but not letting it take over. I realized I wasn't caught up in any emotional complexity. It was just a moment, a discovery. And for once, I didn't feel the need to search for more. I was free. Then a revelation hit me as we headed out of the building. He had gotten what he wanted. What if his attitude changed now? What if he never called me again after tonight? I came to terms with the sex, but not with the consequences beyond my control. Still, I couldn't help but glance at him sideways. What was he thinking? Had he enjoyed it enough to want to do it again, or was he ready to run? My brain reassured me. I'm ready to do it again, he had said just before my friend knocked on my bedroom door. So, Mr. Mirage would do it again. Yet why doesn't he take my hand? Why does he avoid my gaze? Something changed, right? The charade is over because he achieved what he wanted. And as if that wasn't enough, a more insidious image slipped into my mind. Me, laying in bed alone, staring into the cosmic void, Sighing in frustration, tossing and turning after sharing an intimate moment with the guy I was seeing. That image hit me hard, but at the same time, it felt inevitable. Being an adult woman, I had to own my choices, no one to run to. And yet, a near physical fear gripped me at the thought of spending the night alone. I tried to comfort myself, thinking that, just like when I struggled to sleep due to stress, I could put on a podcast that always helped me unwind. Then suddenly, his dark eyes met mine. He gave me a kind smile and took my hand. I felt a rush of relief, but scolded myself. If he didn't reach out after that night, I would have left fell down, because the value I placed on myself wasn't tied on a one-night stand, but on a human level, that would have sucked. Still, I shouldn't internalize his behavior. It reflected who he was, not my worth. This idea came from a less romantic disappointment, and it helped me maintain a certain distance between others' reactions and my self-esteem. Besides, worrying about things beyond my control was pointless. I was there to have fun, not to psychoanalyze Mr. Mirage. So when we arrived at Mona Verde, I, like my friends, expected a DJ set. Instead, we found ourselves on a rooftop on Avenida da Liberdade with background music but no DJ. We sat at a table and I reluctantly braced myself for the rest of the evening. That outing wasn't my vibe, sitting for hours, sipping a drink and chatting aimlessly. They also chose to ignore me, even though they had invited me. So I turned my focus to Mr. Mirage. Somehow, we ended up talking about our musical taste again. With playlist in hand, we realized we had some artists in common, but our tastes diverged significantly. I thought someone once said that sharing music is a love language. Do you agree? At the end of the evening, my friends snapped me out of my bubble, acknowledging my existence. I didn't raise any issues. It wasn't the right place, and making a scene wasn't my style. We headed home, and honestly, I was grateful for Mr. Mirage's attention. Unless that affection was just part of his need to prove something to himself, to me, or to my friends. Returning to my room, we realized it was much later than anticipated. He had said 1 o'clock would be ideal for him to leave, but now it was 2 a.m. He sat on the edge of my bed searching for an Uber while I removed my shoes, and at some point he mumbled, "Damn, 2 hours." Leaving the sentence unfinished, I glanced at him, and though I didn't fully understand his words, the request lingered in the air between us. You know what I did? I selfishly seized the moment. I offered to let him stay the night, so I wouldn't be alone. He thanked me, probably thinking I'd fallen for his opportunistic move, or that I was being overly generous. But neither was true. Between us, for a brief moment I wondered, what if he does something inappropriate while I'm asleep? Like put it in my mouth or worse, kill me? I pushed the thought aside, grateful for my survival instinct. Another half-hour passed before we finally lay down on my bed. It felt strange to share it with someone after so long. The fact that it wasn't my home made it a bit easier. I was certain I could speak for both of us by saying it wasn't the most restful sleep. We hovered wakefulness and sleep, and whenever one of us moved too much, our eyes would snap open. Sharing a bed for the first time was uncomfortable, but in the end, I was relieved this stayed. At least, I wasn't alone. Let's be honest, sharing a bed wasn't just about warmth or closeness. It was about inviting someone into your most intimate space. A place where you dream, fear, and feel your rawest emotions. And I couldn't help but wonder, how much are we willing to share with someone even when we are not sure where it might lead? It's a question that sticks with me. What about you? How do you navigate those moments of vulnerability with someone? And that's a wrap for today's chapter of CHARADE. Thank you for spending this time with me. It truly means the world. And in the next episode, we'll dive into Escapade in Ericeira, where we explore the unexpected moments that can change everything. Sometimes in ways we don't see coming. Until next time, stay curious and take care. Mwah! I am Jessica and this is CHARADE.